Look up at the night sky tonight, and what do you see? A scattering of stars, a glowing moon, perhaps a planet shining steadily among them. But now, imagine standing beneath that same sky 3,000 years ago, with no telescopes, no satellites, no scientific explanations to guide you. To the ancient astronomers who watched the heavens with nothing but their eyes and their boundless curiosity, these celestial bodies weren't just lights, they were living, breathing deities, shaping the fate of humanity from the cosmic beyond. The movements of planets became divine messages. The constellations turned into epic tales of gods and heroes, and the mysteries of the universe, they were the very foundation of myth itself. This is the story of how the stars became gods. Across civilizations from the Babylonians to the Greeks, the Egyptians to the Maya, early astronomers mapped the heavens with astonishing precision, and in doing so, they gave birth to legends that would endure for millennia. The planet Venus wasn't just a bright dot in the sky. She was Ishtar, the Mesopotamian goddess of love and war, rising and falling like the tides of human passion. The sun wasn't merely a burning ball of gas. It was Ra, the Egyptian sun god, sailing his golden boat across the sky each day. These weren't just stories. They were humanity's first attempts to make sense of the cosmos, to find meaning in the vast, unknowable expanse above them. And here's the most astonishing part: many of these myths weren't pure imagination. They were born from real, observable celestial events. Eclipses, comets, the dance of planets, each one left its mark on the myths we still tell today. So as we journey through the ancient skies together, you'll discover how a simple alignment of stars could inspire tales of creation, how a wandering planet might become a trickster god, and how the very fabric of our oldest stories is written in the stars themselves. By the time we're done, you'll never look at the night sky the same way again, because the truth is the heavens aren't just above us, they're woven into the very heart of who we are. Long before the first written word, before cities rose and empires fell, humanity's oldest scientists were already at work, not in laboratories, but beneath the open sky. Picture a Babylonian priest in the twilight, pressing wedge-shaped marks into wet clay, recording the precise position of Jupiter as it crept across the heavens. Or an Egyptian scribe noting how the star Sirius disappeared for 70 days each year, only to reappear just before the Nile's life-giving floods. These weren't casual observations. They were sacred rituals repeated night after night for centuries, creating the world's first astronomical records. What's truly remarkable is how accurate these ancient stargazers were without any modern tools. The Babylonians could predict lunar eclipses within minutes. The Maya calculated Venus's 584-day cycle with near-perfect precision. But here's what separates them from today's astronomers. Every celestial event held divine meaning. When Mars reversed course in its yearly journey, what we now call retrograde motion, they didn't see orbital mechanics. They saw Nergal, the god of war, turning back to deliver a message. A solar eclipse wasn't just the moon blocking the sun. It was the serpent Apep threatening to swallow Ra's solar boat whole. This sacred astronomy reached its zenith with the Zodiac, a concept born in Mesopotamia around 3,000 years ago. The Babylonians divided the sky into 12 sections, each corresponding to constellations through which the sun appeared to travel. But these weren't just star patterns, they were cosmic stages where divine dramas played out. When the sun entered Leo, it wasn't merely an alignment, it was the celestial lion unleashing its fiery power. This fusion of math and myth spread across civilizations. evolving into the astrological systems we still recognize today. The tools they used reveal how deeply astronomy and spirituality intertwined. Take the Egyptian Mercury, a simple sighting instrument made of palm ribs and string. Priests would use it to align temples with certain stars, turning entire buildings into stone calendars. In China, oracle bones from the Shang dynasty show astronomers noting guest stars, what we now know were supernovae, as visits from celestial deities. Every culture developed its own methods, but all shared one belief: the heavens were alive, watching, speaking to those who learned their language. Perhaps most telling are the ancient observatories themselves. Stonehenge's towering slabs frame the summer solstice sunrise with eerie precision. Chichen Itza's El Castillo pyramid casts a serpent-shaped shadow during equinoxes. These weren't just monuments, they were bridges between earth and sky, places where humans could stand in the presence of the gods, and that's the heart of it all. For these early astronomers, tracking the stars wasn't about distancing themselves from the divine. It was about drawing closer, reading the cosmos like a sacred text written in light. No celestial body commanded more reverence than the sun. Its daily rise and fall didn't just mark time, it sustained life itself. In ancient Egypt, this golden disk wasn't merely a star but Ra himself, the creator who emerged each dawn from the underworld, sailing his solar bark across the heavens. Artists depicted him with a falcon's head crowned by a fiery disk, a visual echo of the sun's blinding radiance. The entire rhythm of Egyptian life followed his journey, temples aligned to catch his first rays, pharaohs claiming descent from his divine light. But Ra wasn't alone in his celestial dominion. Half a world away, the Aztecs watched the same sun with equal awe, calling it Meteor, the warrior god who demanded blood sacrifices to keep his strength. According to their legends, the sun had already died 4 times, each collapse plunging the world into darkness until the gods sacrificed themselves to ignite a new dawn. This wasn't poetic metaphor. When Aztec priests cut out human hearts atop pyramids, they believed they were literally fueling the sun's fire, preventing cosmic extinction. The Greeks took a different approach, personifying the sun as Helios, a handsome titan driving a chariot pulled by 4 fiery steeds. Every morning, his sister Io's dawn would open the gates of heaven, and Helios would begin his perilous journey not across water like Ra, but through the air, so close to Earth that myths warned of his heat scorching the land. His son Phaethon's disastrous attempt to steer the chariot explained why parts of Africa became deserts, a vivid example of how ancient cultures used mythology to explain natural phenomena. What's fascinating is how these solar deities shared striking similarities despite arising in isolated cultures. The Hindu Surya, like Helios, rode a chariot, though his was drawn by 7 horses representing the rainbow's colors. Japan's Amaterasu, the sun goddess, withdrew into a cave out of sorrow, plunging the world into darkness until other gods lured her out with laughter and mirrors, a myth that may reflect ancient observations of volcanic eclipses. Even the sun's death at sunset inspired profound myths. For the Norse, it wasn't a chariot but wolves that chased the sun across the sky. Skoll and Hati, the eternal pursuers, would finally catch their prey at Ragnarok, the apocalyptic battle where the sun would be swallowed, only to be reborn from a surviving spark. This cyclical destruction and renewal mirrored agricultural cycles, linking celestial events directly to human survival. The sun's dual nature, life-giver and destroyer, shaped these myths. While most cultures celebrated its warmth, others feared its power. In Mesopotamian lore, the god Shamash brought justice but also drought. Australian Aboriginal traditions speak of the sun woman carrying a torch so hot she must walk slowly across the sky to avoid burning the earth. These nuanced portrayals show how ancient astronomers didn't just worship blindly, they observed keenly, weaving the sun's real effects on their world into the fabric of their beliefs. Perhaps no structure captures this sacred relationship better than Egypt's great temple of Amun-Ra at Karnak. Its central axis aligns perfectly with the winter solstice sunrise, a date marking the sun's rebirth as days began lengthening again. When dawn light pierced the temple's inner sanctuary, it illuminated statues of the gods, symbolizing Ra's renewal of divine order. This wasn't just architecture, it was astronomy carved in stone, a permanent dialogue between earth and heaven. These solar myths reveal something fundamental about human nature. Faced with an unthinkably powerful force, one that could nurture crops or wither them, that vanished nightly only to return unpredictably, our ancestors did more than fear or worship. They told stories, they sought patterns, they turned the sun's relentless cycle into a narrative of struggle, sacrifice, and triumph that still resonates today. Because in the end, every sunrise wasn't just a celestial event. It was a miracle repeated, a god keeping their promise, written in light across the sky. The moon's silver glow cast a different kind of spell on ancient civilizations, one of mystery rather than majesty. Where the sun ruled with unwavering light, the moon whispered secrets through its phases, waxing and waning in a celestial dance that seemed to mirror the rhythms of life itself. To the Mesopotamians, this luminous disk was no mere rock, it was Sin, the wise old god who wore a crescent crown and measured time itself. His beard flowed like the night sky, and his disappearance each month wasn't just an astronomical event, it was a period of divine judgment when the gods decided human fates. This lunar deity held astonishing power over daily life. Babylonian priests tracked Sin's movements with such precision that their lunar calendars were accurate to within minutes. Yet they believed these calculations weren't just math, but messages from the divine. When the moon vanished during eclipses, they saw demons attacking Sin, and would clang pots and shout to scare the evil spirits away. The moon's gravitational pull on tides didn't go unnoticed either. Ancient texts describe how Sin's breath made waters rise and fall, linking celestial patterns directly to earthly phenomena. Across the Mediterranean, the Greeks envisioned the moon's duality through Artemis, goddess of the hunt, yet also a protector of women and children. Where her brother Apollo drove the sun's fiery chariot, Artemis moved silently through the night, her silver bow reflecting the moon's cool light. Her connection to lunar cycles ran deep. Myths tell how she helped women in childbirth, just as the moon's phases mirrored the female menstrual cycle. This wasn't coincidence. Early astronomers noticed these parallels and wove them into their understanding of divine order. The moon's transformative power inspired some of mythology's most enduring tales. In Egypt, Thoth wasn't just the god of wisdom, he was the moon itself, healing the eye of Horus after battles, which explained why the moon appears damaged before becoming full again. Chinese legends spoke of Chang, the moon goddess who drank an immortality elixir and floated weightlessly to her lunar palace, accompanied only by a jade rabbit, a poetic explanation for the shadows we now call Lunar Maria. Even today, Mid-Autumn festivals celebrate her story with mooncakes shaped like the full lunar disk. What's remarkable is how the moon's physical properties fueled these myths. Its eerie face, actually impact craters and plains, became a screen for human imagination. The Inuit saw a girl carrying a lamp in those shadows. The Maori spotted a woman weaving. And in West Africa, the markings told of a disobedient sheep that the moon spirit swallowed as punishment, still visible forever as a warning. These weren't childish fantasies. They were sophisticated attempts to explain observable phenomena long before telescopes revealed the moon's true nature. The moon's magic extended beyond stories into daily survival. Ancient farmers from Mesoamerica to Mesopotamia planted and harvested by its phases, believing crops grew better under certain lunar signs. Germanic tribes named their months after moon cycles, hence Monday or Moon Day, while Pacific Islanders used its light to navigate vast oceans. When the Inca saw a lunar eclipse, they feared their moon goddess Mama Quilla was being attacked and would howl to scare away the celestial jaguar they believed was devouring her. Perhaps no structure captures the moon's sacred importance better than England's Stonehenge. While its solar alignments are famous, fewer notice how its smaller bluestones track the moon's 18.6-year cycle, a pattern so complex it takes a human lifetime to observe fully. The builders didn't just track it, they worshipped it, leaving offerings in nearby pits during significant lunar events. Like countless cultures, they saw the moon not as a dead satellite, but as a living force governing the ebb and flow of existence itself. This celestial body's soft glow hid profound power. It dictated calendars, inspired gods, and even explained human behavior. Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote that the moon's pull could fill brains with madness, giving us the word lunatic. Yet it also symbolized renewal, its monthly rebirth offering hope that endings were just new beginnings in disguise. The ancients may not have known about tidal forces or reflected sunlight, but their lunar myths reveal something timeless, that humanity has always looked upward not just to understand the cosmos, but to understand ourselves. Of all the wandering lights in the ancient sky, none captivated humanity like Venus, that impossibly bright jewel that appeared both at dawn and dusk, yet mysteriously vanished for months at a time. To early astronomers tracking its movements, this wasn't just a planet, it was a shape-shifting deity, embodying the dualities of love and war, life and death, creation and destruction. The Babylonians saw at first Ishtar, the radiant goddess whose morning appearance heralded fertility, yet whose evening return signaled battle cries. Her very nature reflected Venus's celestial behavior, sometimes appearing gentle as a bride, other times fierce as a warrior, disappearing into the underworld before resurrecting anew. This cosmic duality played out across cultures with astonishing consistency. For the Maya, Venus wasn't merely observed, it was feared. Their Dresden Codex contains precise charts predicting its movements down to the day, because they believed Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, used Venus's reappearance to demand sacrifices. When Venus rose as the morning star after months away, Mayan rulers went to war, timing attacks to align with what they saw as the god's divine approval. The planet's 8-year cycle even dictated their sacred calendar, with temples like Chuchain Itzos El Castillo designed to cast serpent-shaped shadows during Venus's key appearances. Halfway around the world, the Greeks saw the same planet as two separate entities: Phosphorus, the light bringer at dawn, Hesperus, the evening star at dusk, until Pythagoras realized they were one. Yet even then, myths persisted. Aphrodite, born from sea foam, was given Venus as her celestial domain, linking the planet's beauty to love, but also to chaos, as her Roman counterpart Venus was mother to both Cupid and the warlike Aeneas. This paradox wasn't accidental. Early sky watchers noted how Venus outshone all stars yet moved unpredictably, inspiring tales of capricious deities. The planet's most dramatic behavior, its retrograde loops, fueled some of mythology's darkest omens. When Venus appeared to reverse course against the stars, a phenomenon we now understand as orbital mechanics, the Babylonians recorded it as Ishtar descending to the underworld, bringing 7 days of misfortune. Chinese astronomers called it Teibai Jin and associated its movements with the balance of yin and yang. If it strayed too far from its predicted path, emperors would perform rituals to restore cosmic harmony. Even the Norse connected Venus to their goddess Freyja, whose chariot was pulled by cats, a possible metaphor for the planet's leaping motion during retrograde. What's fascinating is how Venus's actual astronomical properties fed these myths. Its thick clouds, which we now know are sulfuric acid, gave it an unearthly, uniform glow like a divine beacon. Its 584-day synodic cycle, 5 Venus years matching 8 Earth years, created mathematical patterns that ancient priests saw as sacred geometry. The Aztecs even based their new fire ceremony, a ritual performed every 52 years to prevent world's end, on the alignment of Venus and the Pleiades. No artifact captures Venus's divine status better than the Venus tablet of Amasajuka, a 7,000-year-old Babylonian cuneiform that tracks its movements with eerie precision. These weren't dry scientific records. Each entry describes omens. If Venus appears in the east during harvest, prices will be low. If in the west, locusts will come. For these ancient astronomers, the planet wasn't just an object in space. It was a living oracle, its every motion a whispered prophecy. This celestial body's influence extended beyond myth into concrete history. When the Sumerians built the ziggurat of Ur, they aligned its corners to Venus's extreme rising points. Polynesian navigators used it to pinpoint distant islands across the Pacific. And in Renaissance Europe, Galileo's observation of Venus's phases proving it orbited the Sun would shatter medieval cosmology forever. Yet perhaps the most enduring legacy lies in our language. The word Friday traces back to Frigg's Day, named for the Norse Venus-linked goddess, while venereal and venerate both stem from the planet's Latin name. Venus's story reveals a fundamental truth about ancient astronomy. What we now see as predictable planetary motion was once a divine drama playing out in real time. Every disappearance was a god's journey to the underworld, every reappearance a resurrection. The planet didn't just inspire myths, it became them, teaching us that the boundary between science and spirituality was once as thin as the line between dusk and dawn. When Mars rose in the night sky, ancient civilizations didn't just see a planet, they saw a bleeding wound in the heavens, a crimson warning that stirred both awe and dread. That distinctive rust-colored glow, caused by iron oxide dust covering its surface, became a universal symbol of violence across cultures separated by oceans and millennia. The Romans didn't merely name their war god after this planet, they shaped their entire identity around it. Legend claimed Mars was father to Romulus and Remus, the twin founders of Rome, making every Roman soldier literally a son of Mars. His temple stood in the field of Mars, where armies gathered before battle, and the month Martius our March marked both the start of the military campaign season and the planet's most prominent appearances. But Mars's influence stretched far beyond the Mediterranean. Chinese astronomers called it Yinghuo, the fire star, recording its movements as early as the Shang dynasty. They noticed something peculiar while other planets moved predictably. Mars would sometimes pause, loop backward, then continue forward. These retrograde periods coincided with historical unrest, leading court astrologers to declare the planet unruly and rebellious. During the Han Dynasty, officials would alter government policies when Mars grew brightest, fearing its fiery virtue might ignite revolts. Halfway around the world, the Maya saw the same red orb as Ekchuaj, a deity carrying a spear and shield, whose position in the sky determined whether their warriors should attack or retreat. The planet's physical characteristics only deepened these martial associations. Unlike steady Venus or stately Jupiter, Mars seemed to pulse in brightness. an effect caused by its elliptical orbit bringing it closer then farther from Earth. Ancient sky watchers interpreted these fluctuations as the gods' changing moods. Babylonian astronomers meticulously tracked its 19-year cycle through the Zodiac, believing Nergal, their name for Mars, grew strongest when positioned near Scorpio, a constellation already associated with death. Egyptian priests timed their rituals to Mars's disappearances behind the sun, viewing these periods as the god's journeys through the underworld before returning strengthened. Perhaps most striking are the weapons found mirroring Mars's celestial behavior. Norse warriors named their swords after the planet they called Tyr, another war god linked to the Red Star. Viking sagas describe blades that glowed like Mars in battle, possibly inspired by the planet's unusually close approaches that made it outshine Jupiter. In India, the Rigveda hymns praise Mangala Mars as the red-bodied lord of war, while simultaneously describing its motions with surprising astronomical accuracy, proof that myth and observation often intertwined. This warrior planet's legacy even shaped languages. The word martial derives directly from Mars, while Tuesday comes from Tuesday, named for the Germanic equivalent of the war god. The Aztecs took it further. They practiced a ritual called the Binding of Years every 52 years, timed to Mars's conjunctions with other planets, fearing the universe might end unless they lit new fires under its crimson gaze. What ancient observers couldn't have known is how eerily their myths predicted modern discoveries. When early telescopes revealed Mars's surface, astronomers saw what they called canals, later proven optical illusions, sparking theories of a dying warlike civilization. Today's rovers traverse plains named after ancient war deities, while the planet's two moons, Phobos and Deimos, bear the names of Ares' twin sons, Fear and Terror. The blood-red warrior still watches, just as he did when empires rose and fell beneath his glow, reminding us that the line between heavenly body and cultural icon was once written in the stars themselves. Jupiter dominated the ancient sky like a monarch holding court, its steady golden glow outshining all other planets except Venus, moving with regal slowness through the constellations. To the Romans, this wasn't just a celestial body. It was Jupiter Optimus Maximus, the supreme deity whose temple crowned Rome's Capitoline Hill. They didn't merely name the planet after their chief god. They modeled their entire concept of divine authority on its behavior. While Mars pulsed erratically and Venus danced between identities, Jupiter progressed with stately certainty, completing its 12-year zodiac journey like an emperor making rounds through his realm. The Greeks saw this same planet as Zeus, his thunderbolts mirroring the way Jupiter's four largest moons, visible to sharp-eyed observers under perfect conditions, seemed to orbit like loyal attendants. Homer's Iliad describes Zeus nodding his head to shake Mount Olympus, just as Jupiter's gravitational pull influences countless asteroids in what we now call the asteroid belt. Even the planet's great red spot, a storm large enough to swallow Earth, found its mythic counterpart in tales of Zeus stirring tempests when angered. What ancient astronomers interpreted as divine moods, we now recognize as atmospheric phenomena, yet the connection between myth and reality remains striking. In Hindu cosmology, Jupiter took on an even more pivotal role as Brihaspati, the guru of gods. Vedic texts describe him as the remover of darkness, a fitting metaphor for a planet whose brilliance cuts through the night. Indian astrologers still consider Jupiter the most beneficent planet, calling it Guru or Heavy One, not just for its massive size, but for its perceived influence on wisdom and expansion. Ancient Sanskrit texts contain precise calculations of Jupiter's 12-year orbit, demonstrating how astronomical observation and spiritual significance developed hand in hand. What set Jupiter apart in ancient skies was its consistency. While other planets reversed course during retrograde motion, Jupiter's path remained relatively steady, a trait that reinforced its association with lawful authority. Babylonian astronomers called it Marduk, the patron god of Babylon who brought order from chaos. Their Venus tablets show meticulous records of Jupiter's movements, used not just for navigation but for determining when to crown kings or enact laws. The Chinese referred to it as the Wood Star, associating its position with the changing seasons and imperial legitimacy. Emperors would often alter their policies based on its position relative to other celestial bodies. This planetary sovereign's influence extended into practical astronomy. The Mayans tracked Jupiter's 8-year cycle to time royal accessions, believing its conjunctions with the moon signaled divine approval. Norse myths described Thor riding his chariot across the sky, a possible nod to Jupiter's motion through the Zodiac. Even the name Thursday derives from Thor's day, preserving the link between this mighty planet and thunder gods across cultures. Modern science has only deepened Jupiter's mythic resonance. We now know it's a gas giant with over 90 moons, a miniature solar system that may have shielded Earth from catastrophic comet impacts. Its gravitational pull shapes the orbits of other planets, just as Zeus governed the Greek pantheon. The ancient astronomers who saw Jupiter as a cosmic ruler weren't entirely wrong. It does reign over our planetary neighborhood, a celestial king whose presence still commands awe beneath today's light-polluted skies. Saturn crept across the ancient sky like a wise elder moving through familiar halls, its golden light dimmer than Jupiter's, its pace so deliberate it took nearly 30 years to complete its journey through the Zodiac. To the Romans, this measured motion wasn't just celestial mechanics, it was Saturnus himself, the god who first taught humanity agriculture and the passage of seasons. His festival, Saturnalia, turned society upside down for a week. Each December masters served slaves, candles lit the winter darkness, and gifts exchanged hands, all celebrating time's cyclical nature under this slow-moving planet's watchful gaze. The Greeks told a darker tale, naming the planet after Kronos, the Titan who swallowed his children to prevent being overthrown, a myth that eerily mirrors how Saturn's gravitational pull consumes asteroids and comets. That famous painting of Kronos devouring his son, it's no coincidence he's often depicted with a scythe, the same tool farmers used during harvest, linking this fearsome deity back to Saturnus's agrarian roots. Ancient astronomers noticed something peculiar where Jupiter's 12-year cycle matched a generation's coming of age, Saturn's 29, and a half-year orbit marked a full turn of life's wheel, from childhood to parenthood to elderhood. What made Saturn truly unique was its air of mystery. While other planets shone steadily, Saturn sometimes appeared to flicker, an effect we now know comes from sunlight glancing off its rings, though those dazzling bands remained invisible until Galileo's telescope revealed them. Babylonian priests called it Ninurta, associating its position with droughts and hard lessons. In Hindu astrology, it became Shani, the stern judge whose 7.5-year transits were feared as periods of karmic reckoning, yet also respected as times of necessary pruning, like a vineyard before new growth. This celestial timekeeper left its mark on language and culture. The word Saturday preserves Saturn's legacy across multiple languages, from the Latin dies Saturni to the Germanic Saturn's day. Alchemists used Saturn's symbol, the scythe, to denote lead, the heaviest and slowest of the classical metals. Even today, we speak of Saturnine personalities, those who are grave yet wise, mirroring the planet's dual nature as both harsh teacher and bringer of wisdom. Perhaps most fascinating is how Saturn's astronomical reality fed these myths. Its rings, though unseen, may have subtly affected how ancient observers perceived its light. Chinese records from 365 BCE note Saturn appearing like a blue peach, possibly a description of its atmospheric haze. The Maya tracked its oppositions with uncanny precision, timing royal succession ceremonies to its brightest appearances. And in medieval Europe, Saturn's association with melancholy inspired artists to depict scholars and philosophers under its influence, deep in thought beneath its distant glow. Saturn's enduring legacy reminds us that the ancients didn't just watch the sky, they saw in it the full spectrum of human experience, a planet that could symbolize both the terror of time's devouring march and the wisdom that comes with age. A celestial body whose very slowness became a lesson that some truths unfold gradually like seeds in winter soil, waiting for their season to rise. Mercury darted across the ancient sky like a thief in the night, here at dawn, gone by midday, reappearing at dusk only to vanish again before anyone could get a proper look. This fleeting behavior made it the ultimate celestial trickster, a planet that seemed to play games with those who tried to track it. The Romans didn't just name it after their messenger god, they modeled Mercury's entire mythological persona on its slippery movements. Worshipped as the patron of merchants and thieves, this deity perfectly embodied the planet's unpredictable nature, moving so quickly that artists depicted him with winged sandals and a traveler's hat, always in a hurry to deliver his divine messages. The Greeks knew this same celestial body as Hermes, the clever intermediary between gods and mortals. His myths mirror Mercury's astronomical quirks. Just as the planet appears to zigzag near the horizon, Hermes was said to move so fast he could cross boundaries between worlds, even stealing Apollo's cattle on the day he was born. That famous caduceus, the winged staff entwined with serpents, it wasn't just a symbol of commerce, it represented the planet's path as it weaved between other celestial bodies, a celestial diplomat navigating the cosmic order. What made Mercury truly unique was how rarely ancient astronomers actually saw it. Nestled close to the sun, it's only visible for short periods just after sunset or before sunrise, a trait that led Babylonian astrologers to call it the jumping planet. Their records show meticulous attempts to predict its appearances, often interpreting these brief sightings as omens. A sudden glimpse of Mercury might signal upcoming diplomatic changes, while its disappearance could warn of messengers going astray. The Maya took it further. Their Dresden Codex contains precise tables tracking Mercury's phases, believing its movements influenced trade routes and communication networks across their empire. This planetary trickster left its mark on language and culture in surprising ways. The word mercurial, describing someone quick-witted yet unpredictable, stems directly from the planet's namesake. Alchemists used Mercury's symbol to represent quicksilver, the liquid metal that slips through fingers just as the planet slips through the sky. Even Wednesday, Mercredi in French or miércoles in Spanish, preserves the connection to this swift celestial messenger across languages. Perhaps most fascinating is how Mercury's physical properties fueled its mythological reputation. We now know it's the fastest planet in our solar system, completing an orbit every 88 Earth days, a fact the ancients intuited through careful observation. Its extreme temperature swings, from scorching days to freezing nights, mirrored Hermes' dual nature as both a bringer of luck and a cunning thief. That the planet has no real atmosphere only adds to its elusive character. Just as Hermes could move unseen between realms, Mercury traverses the void without a celestial cloak to soften its harsh edges. From Egyptian temple alignments that captured its fleeting appearances to Norse myths of Loki's darting movements echoing its path, Mercury's legacy endures as the original celestial communicator. In a world before instant messaging, this wandering star reminded humanity that some messages come quickly, some get lost along the way, and sometimes the most important truths appear only briefly before vanishing back into the light. Long before streetlights drowned out the stars, ancient sky watchers did something remarkable. They turned random pinpricks of light into epic tales that stretched across the heavens. Orion wasn't just a collection of bright stars, he was a mighty hunter frozen in the sky, his belt gleaming as he eternally pursued the Pleiades sisters, with his loyal dogs Sirius and Procyon at his heels. The Greeks saw his tragic story in those stars, a boastful giant slain by a scorpion's sting, placed opposite Scorpius in the sky so they'd never meet again. But here's what's fascinating: this same constellation appeared in Egyptian mythology as Sa, the soul of Osiris crossing the underworld, while the Maya visualized it as a turtle shell resting in the cosmic sea. These celestial patterns served a dual purpose. They were humanity's first story books and earliest GPS systems. Ursa Major's 7 bright stars may look like a simple ladle to modern eyes, but to countless cultures they formed a great bear. Native American tribes saw the bowl as the bear itself, with 3 trailing stars as hunters chasing it, their seasonal movements explaining why the constellation seems to circle Polaris. The Norse imagined Odin's wagon. The Romans called it the 7 oxen, from which we get septentrional, meaning northern, while Hindu texts described it as the Saptarishi, 7 sages who guided cosmic order. The Zodiac constellations took this concept further, transforming the sun's yearly path into a celestial theater. When Babylonian astronomers divided this band into 12 sections around 3,000 years ago, they weren't just mapping, they were myth-making. Taurus became the bull of heaven sent by the goddess Ishtar to punish mortals. Gemini represented the twins Gilgamesh and Enkidu from Mesopotamia's epic tales. Even the seemingly obscure constellation Ara, the altar, held profound meaning. It was where the Greek gods swore their oaths before battling the Titans, its southern position symbolizing the underworld's gates. What's astonishing is how these stories crossed continents independently. The constellation we call Scorpius appeared as a scorpion in both Greek and Aboriginal Australian traditions, one culture seeing Orion fleeing from it, the other viewing it as a creator spirit who brought water to the land. The Pleiades star cluster inspired similar agricultural legends worldwide. Japanese farmers called it Subaru and planted rice by its appearance, while the Aztecs knew it as Chanquistli, the marketplace where souls gathered before birth. These star maps weren't static, they evolved with their cultures. Chinese astronomers organized the sky differently, creating constellations like the Azure Dragon and Vermilion Bird that reflected their philosophy of celestial harmony. Polynesian navigators memorized star paths as houses, the keel of the celestial canoe, the wings of the great albatross, using them to traverse thousands of ocean miles without instruments. Even the Bible references constellations, with Job speaking of binding the chains of the Pleiades and loosing the cords of Orion, showing how deeply these celestial stories were woven into human consciousness. The real magic lies in how these ancient star tales still speak to us. When you spot Cassiopeia's W shape, you're seeing the same vain queen who boasted of beauty and was chained to her throne as punishment, a warning etched in stars for 3 millennia. The faint stars of Delphinus aren't just a dolphin shape, they commemorate the creature who saved the poet Arion from drowning, placed among the stars by Apollo himself. These weren't mere decorations, they were moral lessons, historical records, and sacred texts written in a language of light that anyone, anywhere could read if they knew how to look up. Stretching across the night sky like a luminous scar, the Milky Way has captivated humanity since the first storytellers gazed upward. To the ancient Greeks, its shimmering band wasn't just stars, it was the divine breast milk of Hera, sprayed across the heavens when she pushed away the infant Heracles. That same celestial river flowed through Chinese mythology as Chan, the heavenly river separating the weaver girl and cowherd lovers. A tale explaining why the Milky Way appears brightest during their annual reunion in the 7th lunar month. But these weren't just pretty stories, they were profound attempts to explain why our galaxy arches across the sky like a bridge between worlds. For the Lakota people, this starry path was Wanogi Takanku, the road of spirits where departed souls journeyed to the afterlife. Australian Aboriginal traditions describe it as the celestial river where the rainbow serpent travels between creation sites. Even the Quechua people of the Andes saw it as Mayu, a heavenly counterpart to the life-giving Vilcanota River below. What's remarkable is how these disparate cultures, separated by oceans and millennia, all envisioned the Milky Way as a connective thread between earthly existence and the divine realm. The sheer scale of our galaxy made it irresistible to mythmakers. Unlike planets that moved or constellations that wheeled predictably, the Milky Way remained constant, a fixed highway across the rotating sky. Polynesian navigators used its position to steer voyaging canoes between islands, recognizing it as Hokulea, the Star of Joy. Norse myths depicted it as Bifrost, the burning rainbow bridge connecting Asgard to Midgard. Notice how both interpretations describe a glowing pathway, though conceived continents apart. Modern astronomy reveals why this cosmic river features so prominently in ancient skies. Far from city lights, the Milky Way's glow comes from hundreds of billions of stars too distant to see individually exactly the kind of phenomenon that would inspire tales of spilled divinity or ancestral pathways. Its slightly ragged appearance, those dark patches aren't empty space but dense interstellar dust clouds. The very islands Polynesians steered by, and the obstacles Cherokee stories say were placed by the Great Spirit to test wandering souls. This celestial river's legacy flows into our language today. The word galaxy itself comes from the Greek gala, meaning milk, a direct link to Hera's myth. In Finland, the Milky Way is called Linnanrata, the path of birds, from legends claiming migratory birds followed it south. Even Dante's Divine Comedy describes souls ascending via the Galasha, preserving that ancient idea of a starry conduit between worlds. The next time you stand beneath its glow, remember, you're not just seeing stars, you're gazing at humanity's oldest celestial storybook, written in light across the vault of night. Nothing struck terror into ancient hearts like an eclipse, when the sun or moon vanished without warning, plunging the world into unnatural twilight. For cultures worldwide, these weren't astronomical events but cosmic battles playing out before their eyes. The Vikings believed two monstrous wolves, Skal and Hati, finally caught their prey, the sun and moon, during eclipses, their jaws clamping down until the celestial bodies wrestled free. That terrifying moment when the sun's corona flares around the moon's shadow. To Norse storytellers, those were sparks flying from the sun's desperate struggle to escape. Halfway across the world, Hindu myths explained eclipses with equally dramatic flair. The demon Rahu, his head severed by Vishnu for stealing immortality nectar, forever chases the sun and moon across the sky. When he catches them, his decapitated throat swallows them whole, but they slip out the other side since he has no body to contain them. This vivid imagery didn't just explain why eclipses end. It transformed them into morality tales about cosmic justice. Even today, devout Hindus avoid eating during eclipses, believing Rahu's poison taints food when he devours the sun. The Chinese took a more bureaucratic approach. Their celestial officials saw eclipses as the heavenly equivalent of a royal audit, the celestial dragon inspecting the sun's books. Court astronomers would frantically beat drums and shoot arrows skyward during eclipses, not just to scare the dragon away, but to remind the sun of its duties. One ancient record from over 4,000 years ago reads, The sun has been eaten, a great disaster is coming unless the king mends his ways. These weren't superstitions, they were sophisticated attempts to link celestial events with earthly governance. What's fascinating is how eclipse predictions shaped civilizations. The Babylonians discovered the Saros cycle, repeating eclipse patterns every 18 years as early as 700 BC. Their clay tablets don't just record eclipses, they describe the omens each one carried. If the moon is eclipsed when Jupiter is present, the king will face revolt. The Maya took it further. Their Dresden Codex contains eclipse tables so precise they're still accurate today, likely used to time royal coronations or avoid wars during these volatile celestial moments. Even eclipse colors fueled legends. When the moon turns copper red during a total lunar eclipse, it wasn't science to the Incas. It was Mama Quilla, their moon goddess, bleeding from an attack by a celestial jaguar. They'd shake spears and make their dogs howl to scare the predator away. Meanwhile, in West Africa, the Batamaliba people saw eclipses as the sun and moon quarreling, a temporary dispute that required villagers to mediate by settling their own conflicts down on Earth. These stories reveal something profound about human nature. Faced with the inexplicable, our ancestors didn't cower. They created narratives that made the cosmos feel knowable. A solar eclipse wasn't just the moon's shadow. It was Apollo's chariot pausing mid-journey, or a celestial dragon's appetite, or a demon's eternal punishment. Each culture's explanation reflected its values, whether warrior gods battling in Valhalla, or meticulous Chinese bureaucrats keeping the heavens in order. Modern science may have demystified eclipses, but their power remains. When day suddenly becomes night and stars appear at midday, we still feel that primal awe, the same awe that turned celestial mechanics into epic myths. The wolves may be gone from our explanations, but they still howl somewhere in our collective memory, reminding us that the sky was never just empty space, it was the original theater of gods. Comets blazed across ancient skies like celestial scribbles, sudden, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. Unlike the orderly march of planets or the steady glow of constellations, these hairy stars from the Greek comets appeared without warning, their fiery tails stretching across the heavens like divine brushstrokes. To the Romans, a comet wasn't just a cosmic curiosity, it was a direct message from the gods. When one appeared for 7 nights after Julius Caesar's assassination, his adopted son Augustus declared it the slain leader's soul ascending to join the pantheon, even stamping the image on coins to cement his divine legacy. This wasn't mere propaganda, it reflected a deep-seated belief that comets were celestial heralds, their arrival rewriting human history with streaks of light. Chinese astronomers took a more systematic approach, documenting every comet appearance in meticulous star catalogues. They called them broom stars, not just for their sweeping tails, but because they were seen as cosmic cleaners sweeping away old dynasties to make way for new ones. The Han Dynasty's records describe a comet's tail pointing toward a kingdom as an omen of its imminent fall, while another appearing near the North Star signaled coming floods or famines. These weren't vague superstitions. Court astrologers developed an entire classification system based on comet shapes and trajectories, with specific interpretations for each type. A raid star meant military uprising, while a tailed pheasant predicted bountiful harvests, proving how seriously these celestial visitors were taken. The fear comets inspired wasn't limited to ancient empires. In 1066, as Halley's comet streaked across the sky, Anglo-Saxon chroniclers described it as a sign in the heavens such as men had never seen before, a warning fulfilled weeks later when William the Conqueror invaded England. The Bayeux Tapestry immortalized this moment, stitching the comet right beside Harold Roman II's doomed coronation. Half a millennium later, The same comet sparked panic in Europe when astronomers realized its 76-year cycle meant it wasn't a one-time divine message but a recurring celestial judge returning to check on humanity's progress. What's fascinating is how comets' physical properties fueled these myths. Their icy nuclei vaporizing as they near the sun creates those spectacular tails always pointing away from solar radiation like cosmic weather vanes. Ancient observers noticed this directional quality, interpreting it as the comet choosing where to direct its influence. The Maya saw comets as smoking stars, their tails resembling the breath of gods, while Norse myths described them as flaming swords of the Vanir deities. Even the speed at which comets move, up to 150,000 miles per hour, made them perfect symbols of sudden change, appearing and disappearing before societies could fully process their meaning. Modern science has revealed comets as icy time capsules from our solar system's birth, but their mythic power endures. When Hale-Bopp appeared in 1997, Heaven's Gate cult members tragically saw it as their ticket to transcendence. Meanwhile, artists from Giotto to Shakespeare used comets as symbols of fate, whether foretelling Julius Caesar's death or heralding the birth of Christ in Renaissance paintings. This duality, destruction and renewal, terror and wonder, still lingers every time a new comet graces our skies, because deep down, we're not so different from those ancient stargazers who looked up and saw not random ice balls, but the universe itself writing messages across the night in letters of fire and ice. The Babylonians didn't just map the stars, they gave them personalities. When they divided the sky into 12 equal slices around 3,000 years ago, each section became a stage for divine drama. Aries wasn't merely a cluster of stars resembling a ram, it was the embodiment of Dumuzi, the shepherd god whose golden fleece symbolized kingship. Leo's blazing summer prominence mirrored the lion-headed goddess Inanna in her warrior aspect, while Scorpio's curved tail became a celestial weapon wielded by Ishara, the goddess of oaths and vengeance. These weren't random shapes, they were cosmic portraits painted in starlight by the world's first astrologer priests. What made the Zodiac revolutionary was how it connected celestial movements to human lives. The Babylonians noticed something profound. As the sun traveled through each constellation over a year, its position at your birth seemed to mirror certain traits. A child born under Taurus when the sun nestled near the Pleiades in April might inherit the bull's stubborn strength. Those born under quick-footed Gemini in May often became messengers or diplomats. This wasn't mere coincidence to them, it was the gods whispering your destiny through the stars. The Greeks later adapted this system, replacing Mesopotamian deities with their own myths. Virgo became Demeter, the harvest goddess holding an ear of wheat. Sagittarius transformed into Chiron, the wise centaur aiming his arrow at humanity's flaws. Yet the core idea remained: the heavens were a mirror, reflecting earthly struggles and virtues. Even the zodiac's name reveals this bond, derived from the Greek zodiakos kyklos, meaning circle of little animals, because most signs represented living creatures watching over humanity. Modern astronomy reveals an ironic twist. The constellations no longer align with their original dates due to Earth's wobbling axis over millennia, yet the symbolism endures. Libra's scales still represent autumn equinox balance, just as the Babylonians saw them measuring daylight and darkness. Pisces' intertwined fish still evoke the floods of February, when Mesopotamian farmers prayed for fertile waters. The zodiac's power was never about precise star positions. It was about giving order to chaos, turning the vast unknown above into a story where every person had a role written in the stars. From Babylonian clay tablets to today's horoscopes, these celestial symbols remind us how deeply ancient cultures longed to see themselves reflected in the cosmos. Whether you view astrology as science or poetry, the Zodiac remains humanity's oldest personality test, a 12-chapter epic where the gods didn't just live among the stars, but within us. Glistening like a handful of diamonds tossed onto velvet, the Pleiades star cluster has captivated humanity's imagination since the first storytellers looked up in wonder. To the ancient Greeks, these 7 bright stars weren't just celestial objects, they were the daughters of the Titan Atlas, transformed into doves to escape the hunter Orion's relentless pursuit. Their name itself means to sail, reflecting how their first appearance in May signaled safe passage for Mediterranean ships. But this wasn't just a pretty myth, it was a practical almanac written in starlight, guiding sailors and farmers alike through the turning year. Across the Pacific, Aboriginal Australians gazed at the same cluster and saw the Yungamurra water girls, ancestral beings who brought life to the land. Their dance across the sky coincided with the arrival of winter rains, turning what Western science calls an open star cluster into a seasonal compass. The Maori of New Zealand knew them as Matariki, their helical rising in June marking the new year and a time to honor ancestors. What's astonishing is how these cultures, separated by thousands of miles, all interpreted the Pleiades tight formation as a family unit, whether 7 sisters, dancing women, or a mother with her children. The cluster's connection to fertility runs deep in the archaeological record. Babylonian tablets called them the Star of Stars, linking their appearance to the goddess Ishtar's sacred rites. Japanese farmers planted rice when the Pleiades vanished behind the sun in spring, believing their return would bless the crops. Even the Aztecs timed their 52-year calendar renewal to the cluster's position, seeing it as a cosmic womb giving birth to new cycles of time. This wasn't mere superstition, the Pleiades' heliacal rising when they first become visible before dawn, consistently aligned with planting seasons from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica. Modern astronomy reveals why these stars held such universal significance. Unlike loose constellations, the Pleiades' gravitationally bound siblings actually over 1,000 stars, though only 6 or 7 are visible to the naked eye, create a distinctive teardrop shape that stands out even in light-polluted skies. Their blue hue, caused by hot young stars illuminating surrounding gas clouds, gives them an ethereal glow that feels alive. That wispy nebulosity, ancient observers described it as the sisters' veils or long hair, proving how closely they studied this celestial family. From the Cherokee legend of lost children becoming stars to the Norse view of them as Freya's hens, the Pleiades' legacy endures as humanity's oldest celestial clock. Their winter rising still marks festivals, from Japan's Subaru celebrations. Yes, the car company's logo depicts this cluster to Native American solstice ceremonies. When you spot them twinkling on a clear night, you're not just seeing stars, you're witnessing a story written across cultures and millennia, where 7 luminous sisters continue to guide, protect, and connect us beneath the shared sky. Sirius blazed across the ancient sky like a diamond set in black velvet, so bright that its flickering light seemed to pulse with life. This wasn't just another star to the Egyptians. It was Sopdet, the celestial herald whose first appearance just before dawn each summer signaled the Nile's life-giving floods. Farmers along the riverbanks would watch for its heliacal rising with bated breath, knowing its arrival meant rich silt would soon blanket their fields, turning desert into fertile soil. The connection was so vital that the Egyptian calendar revolved around Sirius. Their new year began not with a solstice or equinox, but the day this star reappeared after 70 days of invisibility. But Sirius's brilliance carried darker omens too. The Greeks called it Serios, meaning the scorcher, believing its summer appearance alongside the sun brought the stifling, dog days when heat drove both men and animals to madness. They envisioned it as Orion's loyal hunting dog, forever chasing the Pleiades across the sky, a myth that gave us its modern name, the Dog Star. Roman farmers claimed crops planted under its influence would wither, while sailors took its steady glow as a navigational blessing, guiding ships through treacherous Mediterranean waters. This star's duality, life giver and destroyer, echoed across cultures. Polynesian navigators used Sirius to steer their voyaging canoes, calling it Kailua, Queen of Heaven. The Dogon people of Mali preserved astonishingly accurate knowledge of Sirius's 50-year orbit around an invisible companion star, later proven to be Sirius B centuries before telescopes revealed its existence. Even the Quran mentions Sirius by name as the star worshipped by pre-Islamic tribes, its light symbolizing both divine guidance and the dangers of straying from righteous paths. Modern astronomy reveals why Sirius commanded such reverence, 23 times brighter than our Sun and just 8.6 light-years away. It's the closest bright star to Earth. That distinctive flicker, ancient observers noted, it's caused by turbulence in our atmosphere bending its intense light, an effect that made it seem to ancient eyes like a living, breathing entity. The blue-white hue described in Babylonian records comes from its surface temperature nearly twice as hot as the Sun's, from Egyptian temple alignments that captured its first rays to Norse myths of it being Loki's stolen torch. Sirius's legacy endures as humanity's original celestial landmark. Its light still guides modern telescopes, just as it once guided lost travelers and timed civilization's most sacred rituals. When you spot it tonight, remember, you're witnessing the same beacon that told pharaohs when to plant, warned Greek farmers of coming heat, and reminded all who gazed upward that even the brightest lights cast shadows. While other stars wheeled endlessly across the night sky, one remained fixed, a luminous sentinel holding its ground as the heavens turned around it. Polaris, the North Star, wasn't just a navigation tool for ancient travelers. It was a cosmic pivot point that anchored humanity's understanding of the universe. To Norse sailors braving the treacherous North Atlantic, this steadfast beacon earned the poetic name Leiðarstjarna, the guiding star, but also something far more visceral, Himminbora, the nail of the sky. They imagined the entire firmament as a vast millstone rotating around this unyielding celestial spike, its light piercing through storm clouds like a promise of safe harbor. The Chinese imperial court saw Polaris through a different lens, as the great imperial ruler around which all other stars, like dutiful officials, revolved in perfect order. Astronomers of the Han dynasty called it Teiyi, the supreme deity's celestial throne, aligning their capital cities and temple complexes directly beneath its unwavering light. This wasn't mere symbolism. Emperors held ceremonies when Polaris appeared brightest, believing its radiance reflected heaven's approval of their rule. Even the layout of Beijing's Forbidden City secretly mirrors the constellations surrounding Polaris, turning an entire capital into a terrestrial mirror of the northern sky. What makes Polaris extraordinary is how its unique astronomical position shaped these myths. Located almost directly above Earth's north rotational axis, it barely moves as the planet turns, a phenomenon early sky watchers recognized long before they understood planetary mechanics. The ancient Egyptians built pyramid shafts aligned to its position, knowing it would guide pharaohs' souls to the afterlife. Arab navigators called it Al-Jar, the steadfast, using its angle above the horizon to calculate latitude centuries before GPS. That faint circle of stars around it, to the Skidi Pawnee people, this was the Council of Chiefs, with Polaris as the central leader whose wisdom kept the cosmos in balance. Modern science reveals an irony. Polaris hasn't always been our North Star. Due to Earth's wobbling axis over millennia, the title has passed between different stars. Around 3,000 years ago, the dim star Thuban in Draco held the position, guiding pyramid builders. In 12,000 years, Vega in Lyra will take the mantle. But for now, Polaris remains our celestial touchstone, its light a bridge between ancient wayfinders and modern astronomers. Whether you're a backpacker using it to find true north or simply gazing up at its steady glow, you're participating in the oldest human ritual of all, finding our place in the vast turning night. Meteors streaked across ancient skies like divine brushstrokes, fleeting, fiery, and impossible to ignore. To the Greeks, these sudden flashes weren't just space rocks burning up, they were Zeus's thunderbolts hurled from Mount Olympus, each one a potential omen or act of divine wrath. Homer's Iliad describes them as blazing torches of the gods, lighting up battlefields to signal favor or warning. But this celestial artillery held a curious duality. The same meteors that could strike down mortals also carried sacred fire. When a meteorite plunged into the earth near Pessinus in 204 BCE, the Romans enshrined it as the embodiment of Cybele, the Great Mother, its blackened surface believed to hold the goddess's power. Far across the Atlantic, Native American tribes wove their own stories around these sky fires. The Lakota saw them as Wanogi Thanka, spirits of ancestors leaping between realms, their brief glow a reminder of life's fragility. Cherokee storytellers described them as the sparks from a celestial blacksmith's forge, while the Pomo people of California called them star arrows, shot by the god Thunder to cleanse the earth. What's striking is how these disparate cultures all interpreted meteors' unpredictability as intentional, whether as divine messages, spiritual journeys, or cosmic weapons. Even meteors' physical properties fueled their mythic status. The Perseid showers, which peak every August, coincided with harvest festivals from ancient Persia to medieval Europe, their regularity making them celestial calendars. The Inuit noticed how some left smoky trails, calling them Kimugtur, dog's breath, while Aboriginal Australians saw the same trails as the luminous paths of creator beings. And when a meteorite actually struck the ground, these thunderstones became sacred objects. The black stone in the Kaaba at Mecca, the Benin bronzes forged from meteoritic iron, even King Tutankhamun's dagger crafted from space metal, all testify to how cultures revered these heavenly gifts. The awe inspired by meteor showers endures today. When the Leonids painted the sky in 1833 with up to 100,000 meteors per hour, newspapers claimed the stars fell like rain, sparking religious revivals. Modern science may explain them as comet debris, but their magic remains each streak a reminder that the sky was never passive, but alive with stories written in fire. High above the northern sky, far beyond the familiar constellations, lies a faint smudge of light that ancient storytellers could never have seen, yet they still found a way to weave it into their celestial tales. The Andromeda Galaxy, our Milky Way's closest galactic neighbor, carries the name of a mythical princess chained to the rocks as a sacrifice to a sea monster. What's remarkable isn't just that this distant island of stars, visible only as a hazy patch to sharp-eyed observers, inherited a human story, but how that story reveals the boundless reach of ancient imagination. Greek myth tells how Andromeda's mother, Queen Cassiopeia, boasted of her beauty, angering Poseidon so deeply he sent the monster Cetus to ravage their kingdom. The princess's rescue by Perseus, who swooped in on winged sandals to slay the beast, became one of antiquity's most enduring legends. But here's what's fascinating: the constellation Andromeda, which points toward the galaxy, was known to early astronomers as the Chained Lady, her celestial posture forever frozen in that moment of peril. The galaxy itself, though invisible to them, became an extension of her myth, a ghostly aura surrounding her outstretched form, like cosmic destiny written across the heavens. This connection between myth and astronomy stretches across cultures. Persian astronomers called the same patch of sky Al-Mara al-Musalsala, the chained woman, while early Hindu texts described it as the celestial antariksha where divine beings resided. None of these observers could have known they were glimpsing a trillion stars 2.5 million light-years away, yet they instinctively linked it to their most profound stories about sacrifice, rescue, and the human condition. Modern telescopes reveal the galaxy's true nature, a swirling colossus destined to collide with our Milky Way in 4 billion years. Yet even this scientific understanding echoes the ancient myths. When Andromeda and the Milky Way eventually merge, their gravitational dance will reshape both galaxies, much like Perseus's intervention reshaped Andromeda's fate. The princess may have been saved from the sea monster, but her celestial namesake now looms as a gentle giant on a collision course with our own cosmic home, a reminder that the universe's grandest stories are still unfolding above us, written in starlight instead of parchment. From chained maiden to galactic neighbor, Andromeda's legacy bridges mythology and astronomy in a way that feels almost prophetic. Those ancient storytellers may not have known they were describing a future cosmic event, but their myths continue to guide us not toward sea monsters this time, but toward understanding our place in an ever-expanding tapestry of stars. These towering stone monuments weren't just buildings, they were celestial calendars carved in rock, sacred machines designed to harness the rhythms of the cosmos. Take Stonehenge's massive heel stone, positioned to catch the first sliver of summer solstice sunlight like a divine spotlight. When dawn breaks on the longest day of the year, that single beam slices through the monument's heart, illuminating the altar at its center. This wasn't primitive stargazing, it was high-precision engineering with a spiritual purpose. The same builders who hauled 25-ton bluestones from Wales 250 miles away also aligned their entire structure to the moon's 18.6-year cycle, marking when lunar eclipses would stain the night sky blood red. Across the Atlantic, the Maya engineered their own astronomical masterpiece at Chichén Itzá. El Castillo Pyramid isn't just 4 stairways with 91 steps each, it's a living calculator. During equinoxes, the setting sun casts triangular shadows down the northern staircase, forming the illusion of a feathered serpent slithering toward Earth. This celestial snake, representing the god Kukulkan, didn't just tell time, it signaled when to plant crops, when to conduct rituals, even when to go to war. The pyramid's acoustics amplify a clap into a chirping Quetzal bird's cry, blending sound and celestial event into a multisensory religious experience. What's astonishing is how these ancient architects encoded complex math into sacred geometry. Newgrange in Ireland, older than the pyramids, features a roof box that funnels winter solstice sunlight into a 60-foot underground passage, illuminating burial chambers for precisely 17 minutes at dawn. The Hopewell Mounds in Ohio form perfect octagons aligned to the moon's major standstills events occurring only every 18.6 years. These weren't random alignments, they required generations of precise observation, passed down through oral traditions we can only partially decipher today. The spiritual dimension runs even deeper. At Machu Picchu, the Intihuatana stone, literally the hitching post of the sun, was carved so precisely that on equinoxes, the sunlight casts no shadow at noon. Incan priests likely used it to tether the sun during its weakest point in winter, preventing it from abandoning humanity to eternal darkness. Similarly, Egypt's Karnak temple has an axis aligned so precisely with the winter solstice sunrise that light penetrates 2 miles of corridors to illuminate the innermost shrine of Amun-Ra, a symbolic rebirth of the sun god enacted in stone and light. These sites reveal a profound truth about ancient astronomy. There was no separation between the scientific and the sacred. When Babylonian priests tracked Venus's movements, they weren't just predicting its position, they were reading Ishtar's moods. The Karakol Observatory at Chichen Itza, with its spiral tower and slit windows framing Venus's extremes, doubled as a temple where rulers communed with celestial beings. Even Stonehenge's bluestones, geologists recently discovered, produce eerie metallic sounds when struck, perhaps used in rituals to ring in solstices with literal celestial harmonics. From the sun dagger petroglyphs of Choco Canyon to the star-aligned temples of Angkor Wat, these structures weren't just about marking time. They were about making time sacred, transforming celestial mechanics into a dialogue between Earth and heaven. Every solstice alignment, every equinox shadow play, was a prayer in architecture form, whispering across millennia that to understand the stars was to touch the divine. Before telescopes or written language, humanity's oldest stories of creation were written in the stars. For the Maori of New Zealand, the Milky Way wasn't just a celestial river, it was Te Ikaroa, the great canoe that carried the demigod Maui as he fished up the North Island from the ocean depths. Each star along its shimmering path marked an oar stroke or a splash from this cosmic voyage, turning the galaxy into a celestial map of their homeland's birth. This wasn't just poetry, it was sacred cosmology, where the act of creation literally stretched across the heavens, connecting every mountain and forest below to its origin point in the sky. Half a world away, the Dogon people of Mali wove astronomy even deeper into their Genesis story. Long before modern telescopes confirmed it, their oral traditions described Sirius not as a single star but a system, with an invisible companion star they called Potolo orbiting every 50 years. According to their priests, this tiny, dense star, later identified as Sirius B, was the axis around which all creation spun, its gravitational pull mirroring the life force that animated the universe. The precision of this knowledge, passed down through generations without written records, still stuns astronomers today. These myths did more than explain origins, they encoded sophisticated observations. The Navajo creation story describes the first people emerging through 4 previous worlds, each destroyed by floods or fire, before reaching the present one. What sounds like allegory may reflect ancestral memories of cataclysmic events, supernova, comet impacts, or climate shifts, observed and preserved as celestial warnings. Similarly, the Aboriginal Australian emu in the sky constellation, formed by the dark dust lanes of the Milky Way, isn't just a static image, its changing orientation throughout the year signals when to gather emu eggs, turning mythology into a practical ecological calendar. The stars also shaped how cultures envisioned the structure of existence itself. Hindu cosmology describes our universe as a cosmic egg, Brahmanda, floating in an infinite ocean of milk, a striking parallel to modern theories of galactic clusters suspended in the cosmic web. Norse myths envisioned the world tree Yggdrasil, its branches holding the 9 realms, while Mayan texts speak of the ceiba tree whose roots reached the underworld and whose crown touched the heavens. These weren't mere metaphors, they were 3-dimensional models of the cosmos, with celestial bodies acting as waypoints between spiritual and physical planes. Even the apparent chaos of the universe found order in these stories. The Babylonian Enuma Elish, etched on 7 clay tablets, describes the god Marduk organizing the stars into constellations after defeating the primordial sea goddess Tiamat, a myth that mirrors how early astronomers imposed patterns on the night sky's randomness. Similarly, the Greek Titan Atlas, condemned to hold up the heavens, became both a cautionary tale and a personification of celestial mechanics. his eternal labor explaining why the stars moved predictably across the sky. What unites these diverse traditions is their shared insight that the cosmos isn't just overhead, but within us. When the Inuit speak of the aurora as ancestors playing football with a walrus skull, or the Chinese describe the Milky Way as the silver river separating the weaver girl and cowherd lovers, they're not just storytelling. They're affirming that humanity's oldest questions, where we come from, why we're here, are inextricably linked to the dance of light above our heads. The stars didn't just inspire creation myths, they became the very language through which cultures articulated their place in an infinite, mysterious universe. When planets drew close in the ancient sky, civilizations held their breath. These weren't mere celestial coincidences, but divine pronouncements carved in light. The famous Star of Bethlehem, described in the Gospel of Matthew, may have been the triple conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in 7 BCE, a breathtaking event where the two largest planets appeared to meet 3 times in Pisces. To Babylonian magi, this signaled a royal birth, as Jupiter represented kingship and Saturn was linked to the Jews, their convergence in the fish constellation, symbolizing ancient Israel, forming a cosmic announcement. These priest astronomers didn't just observe, they packed their camels and followed the alignment westward, their journey demonstrating how seriously planetary meetings were taken as celestial roadmaps. The Maya elevated planetary tracking into an exact science with spiritual stakes. Their Dresden Codex contains precise Venus tables spanning centuries, predicting its appearances down to the hour. Why such obsessive accuracy? Because when Venus emerged as the morning star after months away, it wasn't just an astronomical event, it was the warrior god Kukulkan descending to demand sacrifices. Manuscripts describe rulers timing wars to these celestial resurrections, launching attacks precisely when Venus hung brightest above the horizon. The planet's 8-year cycle even dictated coronations. New kings would ascend only when Venus aligned with certain stars, their legitimacy written in the sky's divine script. Babylonian clay tablets reveal how deeply these alignments permeated governance. A Jupiter-Venus conjunction in 1554 BC was recorded as the great gods conferred. The king will have no rival for 7 years. Another tablet warns that if Mars approaches Scorpio while Mercury is hidden, the king must not go out on campaign. These weren't vague superstitions, they were state policy, with celestial events triggering real-world decisions about war, treaties, and royal succession. The planets became celestial advisors, their movements scrutinized like divine council meetings unfolding in slow motion. Even catastrophic events were linked to planetary choreography. When Rome fell in 476 CE, Byzantine historians noted Jupiter and Saturn had conjoined in Scorpio, the same sign associated with the empire's founding 800 years earlier. Chinese astronomers recorded a 5-planet alignment in 205 BC, just as the Qin dynasty collapsed, interpreting it as the mandate of heaven being withdrawn. Whether these alignments actually influenced history mattered less than the fact entire civilizations structured their sense of time and destiny around them. Modern astronomy reveals the mechanics behind these awe-inspiring conjunctions. Planets don't truly meet, but appear close from Earth's vantage point. Yet their cultural power endures. The grand conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in 2020, the closest in 800 years, still sparked global fascination, proving that even in our scientific age, planetary alignments tug at something primal in the human psyche. When celestial bodies that normally keep their distance suddenly converse in the night sky, we're still that much closer to understanding why our ancestors saw not random orbits, but God's whispering secrets to those who knew how to listen. Look up at Orion's shoulder tonight and you'll spot Betelgeuse, a name that rolls off the tongue like a whispered secret from the past. This fiery red supergiant's title comes from the Arabic Yad al-Jawza, meaning hand of the giant, a phrase medieval astronomers used to map the heavens. But here's what's extraordinary: that name isn't just a label. It's a time capsule preserving a moment when Persian, Greek, and Indian stargazers collaborated across empires, translating and refining celestial knowledge while Europe languished in the so-called Dark Ages. Aldebaran, the glowing eye of Taurus, tells a similar story. Its name derives from Aldebaran, Arabic for the follower, because it trails the Pleiades across the sky like a loyal guardian. These aren't just poetic descriptions, they're fragments of the letter to BF a BB a Macron SID, Caliphate's House of Wisdom, where scholars like al-Batani and al-Sufi meticulously corrected Ptolemy's star charts by observing the night sky from Baghdad to Damascus. Their work didn't just preserve Greek astronomy, it expanded it, layering Bedouin navigational knowledge onto Babylonian constellations, then passing this fused wisdom onward to Renaissance Europe. The survival of these names is a testament to astronomy's unique power to bridge civilizations. Take Vega in Lyra. Its moniker comes from the Arabic al-Nasr al-Waki, the swooping eagle, but its identity as a celestial harp string stretches back to Sumerian hymns. Even seemingly obscure stars like Fomalhaut, a mouth of the fish, in Arabic carry echoes of ancient Mesopotamian fish god rituals. These linguistic threads reveal how knowledge flowed along trade routes, from clay tablets in Nineveh to parchment in Cordoba, eventually etched into the glass lenses of Galileo's telescope. What's often overlooked is how these names encode precise observational data. The star Algol in Perseus, dubbed Ras al-Ghul, the demon's head by Arab astronomers, wasn't just named for its ominous position in Medusa's constellation. Its title hints at their discovery of its eerie variability. They noted this blinking demon dimmed every 2.87 days, a phenomenon we now know is caused by a binary star system eclipsing itself. Similarly, Altair's name, Altair, the flying eagle, reflects its rapid movement across the sky compared to neighboring stars, a detail only observable through generations of meticulous record-keeping. This celestial linguistics even shaped modern science. When European astronomers like Tycho Brahe sought to update star catalogues, they didn't discard Arabic terms, they Latinized them, creating hybrids like Deneb from Danab al-Dajjaj, the hen's tail, and Achenar, Akhir al-Nar, the river's end. Today's astrophysicists still use these medieval handles when locating black holes or exoplanets, making 10th century Bedouin and sky watchers unwitting collaborators in 21st century cosmic exploration. From Hubble's images to SpaceX's star trackers, the legacy of those who first named the heavens lives on, not as relics, but as active participants in humanity's eternal conversation with the stars. Modern astronomy is uncovering an astonishing truth: our ancestors weren't just storytellers, but meticulous observers who encoded celestial events in myth with startling accuracy. Take the Greek legend of Phaethon, the reckless son of Helios who lost control of the sun chariot and scorched the earth. For centuries, this was dismissed as pure fantasy, until scientists discovered evidence of a massive comet impact around 12,000 years ago, a cataclysm that may have inspired the tale. Ice core samples and geological layers reveal global wildfires matching the myth's description of forests ablaze and rivers boiling dry. What ancient witnesses saw as divine punishment, we now recognize as a real astronomical event preserved in oral tradition for millennia. Aboriginal Australian stories offer an even more precise celestial archive. The Yolngu people's oral histories describe a time when the stars fell and the sea rushed in to fill the coastal plains, a narrative that aligns perfectly with rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 years ago. Their songlines, passed down through generations without writing, contain detailed accounts of now submerged landscapes that modern sonar mapping has confirmed exist underwater. These aren't vague allegories, they're ancestral records of environmental change, using the stars as reference points to mark lost shorelines and vanished islands. The convergence of myth and science grows even clearer in the Norse account of Fimbulwinter, 3 years of relentless cold preceding Ragnarök. Tree ring data from Scandinavia shows exactly such a climatic disaster in 536 CE, likely caused by volcanic eruptions or comet debris blocking sunlight. The Vikings didn't understand atmospheric science, but they recorded the event's astronomical effects with eerie precision, describing how the sun turned black as soot and the stars wandered wildly, phrases that mirror modern accounts of volcanic winters. What's revolutionary is how today's researchers are using these myths as scientific datasets. Polynesian navigational chants, once considered poetic tradition, are now helping oceanographers identify forgotten tsunami patterns. The Maori story of Tamatia's fiery canoe, which describes boulders flung inland by a massive wave, led geologists to uncover evidence of a 15th century mega-tsunami on New Zealand's coast. Similarly, Hopi legends about a blue star that brought drought correlate with the known appearance of Halley's Comet during arid periods in the American Southwest. This rediscovery of ancient astronomical wisdom is reshaping our understanding of human history. When the Babylonian Venus tablet of Amasajuka accurately records the planet's movements from 1600 BCE, or when Hindu texts describe the moon's orbit in terms that anticipate modern calculus, we're not just seeing mythology, we're witnessing the birth of empirical science. The Dogon people's knowledge of Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye, or the Mayas' ability to predict solar eclipses centuries in advance, prove that observation and record-keeping flourished long before the invention of telescopes. The real revelation isn't that ancient cultures got lucky with their celestial stories. It's that they developed sophisticated methods of knowledge preservation without writing. From Inuit lunar calendars etched on walrus tusks to Incanquipu knots tracking Venus cycles, humanity's first astronomers found ingenious ways to encode data in art, architecture, and oral tradition. As modern scientists collaborate with indigenous knowledge keepers, we're beginning to read the night sky as they did, not just as a collection of celestial objects, but as a living library where every star, every eclipse, and every comet carries stories waiting to be decoded. The boundary between myth and science grows thinner with each discovery, reminding us that the urge to understand the cosmos is as old as humanity itself.